Welcome back to The Glue Guy, and today we have our very first Sunday week recap episode. Last Sunday I couldn't get one out, I was struggling with audio issues, but today we finally have it. And just to recap what Sunday episodes are all about, kind of like what I said earlier, just a recap of the sports week, what went on across all sports such as basketball, soccer, football, tennis, hockey, baseball, everything. No Formula One this weekend, so there will be no recap. But as like I said earlier, there's a lot of different topics I'm going to dive into. I'm going to give my stars of the week, and let's just get straight into it. So the first major news of the week was obviously the NBA Finals have started. Game 1 was on Thursday between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder are heavy favorites going into this. They were about a 9.5 point favorite going in, and throughout the game it looked just like how everyone thought it was going to be. The defense of Oklahoma City was just incredible, forcing I think just under 20, I think it was 17 turnovers in the first half from the Pacers. SGA was unguardable again. He finished with 38 points. He did all he could. But in the end, just like we've seen all postseason long, the Indiana Pacers do not go away, and they ended up stealing Game 1 in Oklahoma City, 111-110. Throughout the game, Tyrese Haliburton was pretty much a ghost. He didn't really affect the game, with his scoring at all throughout three quarters, and hardly really in the fourth. But they were kept in it throughout the game with guys like Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith hitting clutch threes, Miles Turner hitting a banked three late in the fourth quarter to kind of claw back into this game. And just like we saw against the New York Knicks, against the Cleveland Cavaliers, against the Milwaukee Bucks, the Indiana Pacers will play throughout the entire 48 minutes, just like what Richard Jefferson said on commentary for ESPN. They're not gonna give up if they're down 15. They're not gonna give up if they're down 10 with 5 minutes to play. They're gonna play throughout the entire 48 minutes, and that's exactly what we saw. With about 13 or so seconds left, the Thunder had the ball, but there was a shot clock. Still, the shot clock was still active, so they had to put up a shot without. They were trying to get fouled, but that couldn't happen because Indiana didn't need to foul. And SGA, the guy who you want with the ball in the hands, he put the shot up. It was a good look. It got to one of his favorite spots, just couldn't fall. And then Indiana didn't call a timeout. They raced down the floor, and then Tyrese Haliburton, the guy who I said hadn't shown up throughout the entire game, with 0.3 of a second remaining, puts in a mid-range jumper to give the Pacers not only the lead, but their first lead of the entire game. This was pretty much dominated from start to finish from Oklahoma City, except for the final 0.3 of a second in which the Indiana Pacers took the lead, and that's all that matters. I myself, as an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, I was pretty stunned. I'm not worried just yet about the finals and the remaining of the series, but to have that sort of control throughout the game at home and then just kind of let it slip near the end was really not heartbreaking because the series isn't over, but it was really depressing in a way, I guess. But yeah, the Pacers, they never give up. In the end, they deserve it. They are the deserved winners because it seemed as if Oklahoma City kind of took their foot off the gas in that fourth quarter. They had a 15-point lead with, I think, 8-9 minutes to play after a J-Dub dunk. That got the crowd roaring. That kind of seemed as if that was the early dagger and that Oklahoma City would hold on to win. But no, Indiana kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept shooting and making threes like they've done in late-game situations throughout the entire playoffs. And they take Game 1. So Sunday, it's going to be really fascinating because this game, in my opinion, could determine the series. If Indiana does win and they steal both games in Oklahoma City, then I do think this series is over. But if Oklahoma City comes out and wins, even series going back to Indiana, if they can steal one there, then, it's back to home court advantage. And in the Western Conference semifinals, Oklahoma City lost Game 1 to Denver off of another buzzer-beater-like shot from Aaron Gordon in a game in which it seemed Oklahoma City had in control. A very similar situation to that one, and we saw what happened. Oklahoma City blew them out, or they blew Denver out in Game 2, and they ended up winning the series in 7. So as a fan, that's what I hope were to happen. But if I was a neutral, this would be an amazing series. Game one was already a classic in my opinion. You can talk about how the ratings are down, but it's because it's two small market teams like Indiana and Oklahoma City. Obviously, if it was Boston, Golden State, LA, even Minnesota to an extent because the country loves Anthony Edwards, or Dallas, obviously the ratings would be a lot higher. But I think this game one of Oklahoma City and Indiana was better than any game last year between Boston and Dallas, and it was better between any game between Denver and Miami. So I'm really excited for the remainder of this series. And obviously the main talking point is the fact that the Indiana Pacers did steal game one away from the Thunder. The second topic that I'm going to speak about from this past week, and this is on to the gridiron. This is an NFL topic, and finally we know where Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing this upcoming NFL season. It was highly rumored that at some point he would agree to join the Pittsburgh Steelers, and finally here we are. That is the case. Aaron Rodgers has signed a one-year, $13 million deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers to be their quarterback. They traded for DK Metcalf earlier in the offseason. Now they finally know who their quarterback is going to be. Aaron Rodgers was not successful in New York. He hasn't really been successful for a while now. So obviously as well, his public persona has gone down in recent years. And so I think for most NFL fans, this is kind of a make it or break it signing for Aaron Rodgers' career. If he plays well and the Steelers do well and not do their classic, 9 wins, 10 wins, but not really do anything in the playoffs, if he can actually elevate them, which I think he can. I think talent-wise, he's still one of the best quarterbacks ever. Maybe not now anymore, but he's still up there. He is a Super Bowl winner. And so the Pittsburgh Steelers finally know who their quarterback is. This is a better quarterback situation than what they've had in recent years with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields and Kenny Pickett. It never really worked out. They didn't have a true quarterback one, and it doesn't really feel like they've had one since Ben Roethlisberger. And Rodgers, he is a true quarterback one, but again, it's only a one-year deal, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. They play the New York Jets, I believe, week 1 of the NFL season. Rodgers' old team. And as well, the starting quarterback there is Justin Fields, which is his old team, Pittsburgh. So that'll be a really exciting week one matchup between the Jets and the Steelers. But yeah, Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, they finally know who's going to be their quarterback. It was rumored forever to be Rodgers, and now it's confirmed. Aaron Rodgers signs a one-year, $13 million deal to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the third topic. Ange Postecoglou has been sacked by Spurs. Daniel Levy made the decision to sack Ange Postecoglou, and this has caused really an uproar of rage online for Spurs fans on Twitter. They cannot believe the decision. Daniel Levy already does not have a good image, I guess, towards Spurs fans. No one really likes him, and this just made things 10 times worse. Sacking the manager that brought their first trophy in 17 years is certainly a choice, but he also finished 17th in the Premier League, and they had 22 league losses. I personally can see either point of view. I can see you should keep him because he brought a trophy, but he also, other than that trophy, if they didn't win, it would have been the worst season in Tottenham's history. So finally, it's been confirmed that he is sacked. Daniel Levy did decide to sack him. Some potential replacement rumors right now. The main one is Thomas Frank from Brentford. The Danish manager has been sensational managing Brentford. This is a club that only made the Premier League in recent years, and they have not gone down. We've seen in recent years the 3 promoted teams from the Championship go straight back down at the end of the season. That's happened for 2 straight years. And it's now more than ever really tough to make it to the Premier League and stay. And that's what he's done consistently. And he's done that whilst losing his star players as well. Ivan Toney left in the summer to join the Saudi League. I don't remember the name of the club. But Brian Mbeumo stepped up. Johan Wissa stepped up. Kevin Schade stepped up. But really, I think it's all down to Thomas Frank. So if Spurs do end up with Frank, I do think that is a good replacement. I don't know if his ceiling is higher than Ange's. But, this is just rumors at the moment. The main actual confirmed news is that Ange has been sacked by Daniel Levy and no longer the manager of Spurs. So, very interesting. Like I've said, I am a Spurs fan, and I'm still kind of torn on if I agree with the decision or not. But Yeah, this is not an opinion show. This is a factual show. This is the weekly recap. So the recap is Ange's been sacked. Fourth on the list, the Florida Panthers have evened the series over the Edmonton Oilers with a 5-4 double overtime win in the Stanley Cup Finals. I am not a big hockey fan, but I have tuned into both of these games so far. They have been really exciting. They've had overtimes in each game so far. Connor McDavid is playing like the best player in the world yet again. Leon Draisaitl's playing well. Evander Kane's playing well. I believe he scored last night, but it was a very high-paced first period. I mean, at the end of the first period, I believe Edmonton led 3-2. So 5 goals in one period is pretty exciting, even for a non-hockey fan. And then it went into double overtime, and Brad Marchand scored the winner. The guy they made a midseason acquisition for, they traded for him from Boston. And somebody who, despite being Canadian, just absolutely hates the Canadian teams. You know how much he hates the Maple Leafs. Clearly he hates the Edmonton Oilers as well, because he's scoring yet again, and he's scoring the winner to even the series. If Edmonton were to hold on, that means they would have stolen both games in Florida before going back to Edmonton, and Marchand did not let that happen. So really exciting series, NHL Finals so far. The Stanley Cup has been really good to watch for neutrals, not just hockey fans. And yeah, it is a repeat of last year's, but already it's been fantastic. So even as somebody who doesn't typically enjoy hockey, I've been tuning in, I've been watching, and I suggest everyone else do as well, because 1-1, going back to Edmonton now, it's been a really exciting series. And then finally, on the tennis side, Sunday we will have the final of the men's side of the tournament between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. But on Saturdays when the women play, and Coco Gauff defeated Sabalenka, the number 1 seed, to win her first ever French Open and her second major, all at the age of 21 years old. I think everyone can remember when Coco kind of burst onto the scene. I think she was 17 or 16. And she has just continuously gotten better. She hasn't been somebody who's exploded at a young age and kind of fell down. She's just been continuously getting better. She's won 1 U.S. Open so far, now a French Open, 2 majors, 21 years old. She's the number 2 ranked player in the world. Sabalenka was number 1. But yeah, she dropped the first set 7-6, I believe, won the second set 6-2, and I think won the third set 6-4. So really impressive from Coco. Really impressive to have a U.S. winner for tennis since 2015 was the last time a women's U.S. tennis player won Roland Garros with Serena Williams. And now here we are 10 years later. Coco Gauff is the next U.S. woman to win the French Open. Really exciting times for the United States in tennis, whether that's the women they've always been successful, the U.S., but on the men's side, you've got people like Tommy Paul, Taylor Fritz, Ben Shelton, Francis Tiafoe, a really good crop of talent there. So if you are an American and you are a tennis fan, you got to be really excited for the rest of the season, with Wimbledon still to play, the U.S. Open still to play, and yeah, really exciting time for tennis in the U.S. And that's really all I got for you this week. Tons of sports are in the off season, like soccer now, like the NFL. But with the Stanley Cup Finals ramping up, the NBA Finals ramping up, tennis season has really just begun. Formula One, here we are, almost midway through the season. We're about 9-10 rounds in, so a lot more news coming your way throughout the weeks. This has been the first ever weekly recap. I know it's short, but over time they'll become longer. So thank you for listening.